Huggy Wuggy has been keeping a secret from us, one that could potentially alter the outcome of Chapter 4. There are indicators that Huggy may not be as mute as he appears, and the truth behind his silence is more unsettling than you can possibly imagine. Talking in Poppy Playtime is something that not every toy from the factory is able to do. Half the toys that are able to speak try to kill us, while the other half try to help. For example, Poppy uses her voice to assist the character, while a toy like Mr. Light only speaks to boast about killing. The silent toys who don't speak are rarer, and there's a very dark reason for that. From Mommy Longlegs to Poppy, almost all Playtime toys could talk, at least most of the bigger body ones. But a few numbered toys have always been mute. This includes Huggy Wuggy, Kissy Missy, Boxy Boo, Candy Cat, and the Ruined Critters. But what is the reason behind their muteness? While the other mute toys don't have enough interactions to concern the player, Huggy and Kissy being quiet would bother any Poppy Playtime fan. While I have a couple of theories to make sense of this mystery, here is the darkest one. The human beings used to make Kissy and Huggy weren't old enough to speak. It's no secret that the Playtime toys are all orphaned kids, but it has always been believed that these kids were old enough to speak. Before being turned into a toy, kids had to undergo a proper testing phase to ensure their suitability. But what if some toys were just infants when they were used for their bigger bodies initiative? This theory gains weight when you consider Huggy Wuggy's questionable decision-making and easily manipulated personality. On June 18th, 1992, when Huggy tried to escape the company, it wasn't on his own accord. Instead, he was under the influence of the prototype, who used him to turn into a relentless and genocidal entity. The prototype could have chosen any other toy for that job, but he went with Huggy Wuggy. Maybe it was because it was easier to convince Huggy of such a wild act. After all, the toy wasn't old enough to refuse or make proper decisions. While Huggy was indeed created in 1984, that was just the concept of the Huggy Wuggy doll. Our Huggy Wuggy who chases us was created in 1991. This would make Huggy very susceptible to manipulation and would suggest that he could have been a very young orphan. Another reason this theory works is that, like an infant, both Huggy and Kissy can shriek and scream but can't form sentences. The two toys can both express happiness and fear, but they can only do so with noises and sounds instead of proper words. Since Playtime was aware that Huggy Wuggy could never really speak, they assigned him the role of the factory security. He only had to watch over the kids and staff, which was a job that didn't require talking. While this theory is undoubtedly dark, it would definitely fall under something Playtime is capable of. Another possible theory is that all the mute toys once had voices, but they were either taken away or they just stopped talking. Both Kissy and Huggy's cardboard cutouts contained voices, suggesting that the duo wasn't always mute.
Preparing for departure. 3, 2, 1.
Remember the Poppy Playtime ad? The manufacturer did not need to show a clip of a bloody voice box unless there was a reason for it. It's possible that each toy has a removable voice box that Playtime could pluck out when the toys misbehave. Since Huggy Wuggy made a massive blunder by getting caught, maybe Playtime took out his voice to make sure he doesn't speak to the outside world. It would be in Playtime's best interest to prevent toys from spreading awareness of what is really going on in the factory. They would also stop Huggy from being able to spread hope by giving the prototype's message to other toys. And because Kissy Missy is close friends with Huggy, Playtime also took her voice away to guard their secrets. But there is one issue with this theory, and it has to deal with Catnap and Poppy. Catnap and Poppy walk around with their voices fully intact. While Poppy isn't that much of a threat to Playtime's mission, Catnap has led a whole rebellion at the prototype's orders. The higher-ups at Playtime are well aware of Catnap's belief in the prototype, so if muting a toy was possible, Catnap would be the first to bear the burden. This brings us to the second part of this theory. The toys willingly don't speak. Considering how much time the orphan toys have spent within the walls of Playtime, it's safe to say all of them are thoroughly traumatized. It's pretty common to lose one's ability to speak after undergoing a severely traumatic incident. After his escape, Huggy Wuggy is seen standing next to a home, which could symbolize his desire for a real family. The same could be the case for Kissy Missy. Several times it seems like she wanted to talk but either couldn't or decided against it. For example, in Chapter 2, when she helps us open the gate, she stares at us blankly but doesn't say a word and disappears into darkness. It's safe to say Kissy Missy is holding something in. During the adventure through Home Sweet Home, the player can find Kissy sadly looking at a photo of a girl. The sadness implies that either the girl in the photo is Kissy Missy or a friend she lost during a failed experiment. In both cases, a traumatic incident happened to Huggy Wuggy's counterpart as well. That suggests Huggy Wuggy and Kissy Missy could be suffering from PTSD and lost their ability to speak due to the trauma. This explanation also works for Braun, another mute toy who was locked in isolation because he was different from the other toys. Braun was a Playtime employee who had cancer before he requested to be turned into a toy. After gaining consciousness, he was disoriented, confused, and scared. It appeared as though he lost his memories, and due to severe levels of stress, he could have lost his voice forever. While each of these ideas seem reasonable, there's also a sinister theory that the prototype might have a bigger role. It's possible that some of the toys that don't speak have actually encountered the prototype face to face. The prototype either instilled so much fear into them or has forced them to remain silent. It's a known fact that the prototype hides its body in dark places throughout the Playtime factory, and as we know, not everyone has seen what's beyond his skeletal arm. At the mere thought of death, Mommy Longlegs was terrified of what would happen to her when she died. The prototype could be such an overwhelming monstrous being that even looking at him could take away your ability to speak. This presence won't work on a strong devotee like Catnap, but even Catnap is selective with his words. This condition is also known as psychogenic mutism, where witnessing something horrible or emotionally distressing can lead to selective speaking. It is not surprising that this condition is most commonly found in young children who develop a fear to talk. This would also explain why Kissy and Huggy only scream and yet have voice lines in their cardboard cutout. Maybe their condition is selective, and they can communicate with certain toys privately.
Does someone need a hug? Give me a big squeeze.
Or maybe the real reason isn't that complicated, and Playtime never bothered to voice toys that were a part of the labor force in the Bigger Bodies initiatives. Since Huggy Wuggy was Playtime's eyes and ears, there was no need for him to be able to communicate. Other Bigger Body toys like Mommy Longlegs, Catnap, and the Smiling Critters all had roles requiring them to speak. For example, Mommy Longlegs was tasked with guidance, and the Smiling Critters were supposed to bring comfort to the kids with sense and their chirpy personalities. It's also not too wild to think that maybe Playtime just wanted to save on resources and didn't add voice boxes due to labor costs. To ensure that Huggy Wuggy fulfilled its purpose, they just added enough text so that he would be able to scream. This theory also ties in with Playtime's finances, which weren't looking good when Huggy Wuggy was launched. The high-end tech that Playtime used was expensive and complicated to acquire. Before Huggy Wuggy was made, Playtime was undergoing economic stress, which led to the idea of the Bigger Bodies initiative. So, it's possible that the company couldn't afford pricey voice boxes at the time of Braun and Huggy Wuggy. Another possible explanation is that scientists hadn't yet figured out the formula to make a fully functional toy. Since the prototype was one of the first of the Bigger Bodies toys, some errors were expected, but scientists had previously messed up Braun as well. The prototype was too intelligent for Playtime, and Braun was too anxious and scared. The toys being mute could likely be a mechanical error, which was a result of Playtime Co.'s scientists' mistake. But why do you think Huggy Wuggy doesn't speak? Do you think he's guarding a secret, or is he unable to speak due to his experiments? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel for more content.